Hey everybody, Kate and Meredith are back with another episode of 101. This time we are here with Ivana Chubbuck. Hi Ivana, so great to see you. She is an acting coach, to say the least. She's been doing this for over 40 years, and we're just so happy to have you. Hi.
Hi.
So you're in Los Angeles, right?
I am indeed.
All right. I used to live there. I used to live in Sherman Oaks for 7, 8 years, but I'm back in New York. Just had a newborn to everybody who I haven't seen in a
Congratulations,
while.
new mom. Yes.
New mommy here. Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about your new book and everything that you've done. So,
We've never had an acting coach on 101, which is really exciting. As an actor, I would love to know how you started. How did it evolve into where you are now?
That's a very long story, so I'm going to try to shorten it up. The philosophy of my technique is how to take using pain, which is very, very powerful fuel, to use it not to sit in it or to self-destruct with it or to even have shame from it, but to rather use it as the powerful fuel that it is to overcome and win whatever the objective is. I'm a script doctor. 40% of my business is script doctoring and working with directors. It all kind of comes together as a totality. And I find that sometimes people don't understand that we're telling a story together as a team and to not let ego get in the way and say this is a team effort. And you'll find the movies, the TV shows, the plays that do well. It's not just because it's well written or well acted. It really is about the team effort. The reason why I came up with this philosophy was because I grew up with so much violence. My mother was mentally ill. And so my father, who was a great man, who was a lawyer for civil rights, for unions, all this kind of stuff, but he was always gone taking care of the world. And so he wasn't there to protect. And so I needed a way instead of sitting in it, and I was being very self-destructive, so I understand both sides of this. I knew I needed to just personally, and as an actor, because that's why I started as an actor, I had to start to look at things differently and not see things as attacks or ways to be a victim.
mhm.
And I would say, take the victim out of being a victim. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the book about how to do that. And then to create a philosophy and a technique, the Chubbuck technique, that allows us to understand how to do it in an easy format because it's broken down into numbers, 12 steps, every formula of like how to do, let's say, getting stoned or fear or chemistry has it's math, and it's like broken down into formulas for how to do organically where you really truly feel all this stuff. As a person who I started off as an actor, but I also worked as a writer at Universal Studios. I wrote for Cheech and Chong. I also wrote for a lot of magazines, and there were always comedy pieces. I just think comedy is really important to bring the light to the dark. So even if it's a really dark piece, you got to find the humor.
Sure.
I was also a script girl. I also was married to the director. I also was a part of producing 4 films in indies that went to film festivals. And so the thing is, like, I know all the aspects of it. I love what I do. My book is also a Bible, and I'm not, saying that with humility. As we're therefore the quotes, the Bible for people that are directors and writers too.
Hmm.
It works all over the world.
That's such a fascinating idea to me, just having been on different sets and different circumstances, to have this like continuity of working a specific language where everyone, director, actors, and other creatives on the team could really tap into this common language. I feel like that would be a really interesting experience.
So I studied behavioral science. I studied psychology. I studied cultural anthropology. So
Mhm.
that's the history of culture, language, and why, and the why language exists the way it does. So this really has helped me like kind of create a real true ability to recreate the human experience because I'm coming from the science of it. It's easier to understand science than it is to understand conceptual, esoteric thought process. And one of the other reasons why I wrote the book in the first place is all the books I've read about acting, We're always theoretical. I just don't know what you do with theory. Theory is a conversation. It's not applicable. It's not practical. And I said, someone needs to write a book that's just practical. And
I love that you saw a need. And this is a huge lesson for our listeners, seeing that there's something that needs to be done in the industry to change it, to redefine what is possible and creating your technique.
And with theory, like you can talk and talk and talk. People just, talk. And there's no real practicality, as you said.
An acting teacher that called it like coffee shop talk. Like you can discuss this theory, but it's not getting into your body. It's not, changing your behavior, which is what acting is. So you had all of these amazing opportunities that, really shaped who you are now. When did you kind of make that leap to being a coach? Was there a point where it just started to click and you're like, this is my jam. This is what I do.
when actors help each other when you're on set or theater or whatever, and they help each other learn lines, they help each other say, what do you think about this idea and that idea? And I found that I was giving ideas to people in that environment where that they were doing some of the best work they've ever done. And then people just started coming, would you help me with this? Would you help me with that? And I said, I'm going to start charging for this. I was very little. It was like, I'm going to start charging for this because we have to line up out the door. And then I found myself, like when I was on set, looking at my watch all the time because time was going so slow, because I found I wasn't loving that. But when I was home coaching somebody, time would go so fast. And I was like, the hours just went by, whoa. So well, you always know you like something and you love something when time goes by faster. And so what happened, and I think Meredith's going to like this story, is like I got pregnant. And I said, you know what? My needs changed. I don't know if that happened to you. But what happened was I said, okay, what's truly important? What's my priorities here? And I said, you know what? Bottom line, really like being the person in front of the camera. I want to be the person that's behind the talent. I want to be the empowerer. It's like even Halle Berry, after she won the Oscar, she called me the next day and said, this is our Oscar. Because I just love teaching.
Can we dive into like how you go about teaching a particular actor in a particular role? Like what is the objective of that scene, or what is the objective of the story, and what do they want? What do they need? What is their goal?
There's a 12-step program. Important part of the 12 steps is the first part, which is overall objective, which is you're telling one unilateral story that has an arc, a beginning, middle, and end. And then scene objective, which has to support the overall objective. So we're still telling the same story, but different aspects of timelines or whatever in that story. Then there's obstacles, which is part of the first 3 steps, the most important part. What makes it a dramatic story? And drama and comedy, let's put the two together. What makes for a truly dramatic story is someone overcoming big obstacles. Like I always use the example of you have to cross the street, that's your objective. But it's a sunny day, there's no traffic, you have all the time in the world to get to the other side. Or 2, it's middle of the night, it's like freezing, really icy, there's big trucks going really fast, really fast going down this road, middle of the night, no light, and across the street is your sister who you have 10 seconds to cross the street before they will kill her. And so what do you want to watch? So the obstacles are key. But first you think in terms of the script. And you look at the script's needs and what's going on, what the overall objective of the script is too, to help you understand what your personal part of it all is. And then you personalize, and that's when you start getting past the first 3 steps, all the rest of it is personalizations. And everybody has something. It's called life.
So there's always something.
It's trigger you to want to win. This is really important. Back in the day when man wasn't even erect yet, and Neanderthal man, then when he became started to become erect but wasn't fully, and then we got man. It's like there's archaeologists have found proof that there was games being played and sport. So we have the need primally to want to win. It's called the survival instinct. So the idea is for us to want something so badly, they're willing to do anything. The means justify the end. More exciting to watch something like that happen than watch someone sit in their emotional pain. This is where I know someone's a beginning actor, is they say, how do I cry on cue? And I said, you don't need to. What you need to do is understand how to be proactive, how to proactively go after something, because people are always more invested in the win-lose games. And we're watching it like Wimbledon, boom, 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 who's going to win? And so we want to have people understand the human experience. An investment where you're going, this is me on the screen or on stage, and I'm watching me try to get something because that person relates their issues are my issues, and I'm watching them as me try to survive and win in some way.
Yeah, I that's one of the things that really struck me is that encouraging your actors to be powerful, to find that power. And I feel, having studied Meisner, I think as a young actress, I was always after truth and authenticity and making sure that I was doing the script justice and serving the writing. But I love this idea of finding that power, because exactly what you just said, it makes it more of a game of winning and really pursuing that. So I thought that was something that really struck me about your technique. I guess my follow-up question is, what are the obstacles for actors to find that power? Like, what have you come across where I feel like it would probably be very similar journey for most people, but like, what are the obstacles that get in the way of finding that power in the characters?
So if you accept defeat, that's you. That's on you. I think, making choices of like, I'm going to overcome and win with whatever my objective is in the script. It's like, that's a choice.
Mhm.
Like you can make a choice to like be defeated, be self-destructive with this pain, utilize that in the work, and then it's depressing. We don't want to depress our audience. What we want to do is inspire and motivate our audience, give them hope that people who have the same pain issues as the character on the screen or stage has, and they're doing something about it, maybe
Mhm.
so can I. And that
Yeah,
hope is super important. How important it is just to be honest. Sometimes it
Mhm.
can be boring. So
Yeah,
we want to honestly want to win. We want to honestly want to overcome. I just feel it's choices that people make. So what gets in the way? You. I mean,
yeah.
universal you. It's a choice you have to make in life. And life is filled with choices. And it's up to you to make the choice that will allow you to prosper. And so I would say pain equals prosperity if you choose to see it that way.
Yeah. I love hearing this from you, because I know that there is such a connectivity between your technique and just how it affects people's lives. Your actors' lives change because of this perspective. It's a nuance that I've never seen in any other form of technique or acting tools or things like that. So I think that's such a wonderful
The
perspective.
perspective came from survival, the need to survive, because I was making very self-destructive decisions as a teenager based off of like a very rough childhood. And so I could either die, which I was on that path to do, or I could actually change I call it doing the spin. You spin anything to the worst possible thing or the best possible thing. It's a technique that they use in the advertising world. You'd spin anything, or in politics. I had a girl who, this literally happened 2 days ago. She lost her husband in a motorcycle accident that who knew was going to happen. It was like a freak accident. They're young people, they're in their early 30s. And so she insisted she wanted to do her scene in class, and I said, you don't have to. She did the scene, and it was all about the winning and doing all the stuff that I've taught her to do. And before she started the scene, she was crying about her husband. After the scene was done, she was crying about it. But during the scene, she was so powerful and so mesmerizing and so like funny and all this stuff. So I said, I'm going to give you any notes, because I said, more importantly, give me 3 adjectives to how you feel right now because of what you just experienced 2 weeks ago. And she said, I felt free, pretty, and I felt hopeful. And
Mm.
so it's like the work helped her get through it and heal. And it really does do that if, again, you choose to do that. It's like I have in Russia, not oddly enough, but it's true. They see my book as a self-help book. I was there and I remember being on their version of NPR, and the guy was had zero desire to be an actor or even in the industry, but he said he used the book as a Bible. You have to think in terms of people trying to connect as artists. There is no geography. To me, interesting why you can be popular, and again, how you write it, how you direct it and act it, so all three, to make something universal. Because we don't want to just make it for the American public. What we want to do is say this is going to be something that everybody can get something out of, be entertained, but also there should be a hidden message in everything that you do, like all good art does. And so if you do things that are just primal needs, you will affect the world at large. Because
Yeah.
the artistic world, there is no geography.
We're all connected, you know, every human experiences very similar feelings and behaviors and things like that. And that's what makes film and TV and theater so accessible. You know, you can see a story about someone who is wildly different from you because of where they live or what they've been through, but you have had that same experience of shame, of defeat, and then rallying and coming back. So
Mhm.
I think that's such a magical part of what you do.
This book is about taking 20 years of doing this all over the world and adding to the aspect of understanding that and a whole bunch of new exercises, a whole bunch of new things that new concepts about things. For example, energy kills. So sometimes we have to play a killer, and I don't want or being killed, and I don't want people to judge it. Because in art, you can't judge. Noel Coward once said that, and it's true today as it was when he was around. So we have to look at why does someone need to do the killing, which we is abhorrent, or be killed, which would be make us an ultimate victim. Is like I came up with a thing called energy kills.
Mm.
So that you're still playing the killer, but what we're doing is killing off an energy attached to somebody. Like, for example, for me, I would kill my mother, but not my mother per se, but her voice on my shoulder telling me I'm stupid and ugly all the time. So that I just stop making decisions based on that. And so I'm killing off something good that's going to help me move on and have a better
Mhm.
life. Being the one that's killed, for example, I'll just use somebody's example that was a really good one. She used her mother killing her as a substitution, but killing off her fear because her mother was so fearful that she kind of mirrored her fear and she was making a lot of decisions from fear. So what she did was she had, in terms of her inner work, have her mother kill off her fear. And so then it became interesting as opposed to being awful. So we took the victim out of being a victim. And like with Leaving Las Vegas with Elizabeth Shue, what we worked on was that instead of trying to keep somebody alive who was bound and determined to commit suicide, it was let's find out how you can bond with that. So we came
Mhm.
up with a notion that she too wanted, this is inner work, that she too wanted to commit suicide, and they were bonding over that they came up with the same solution for getting rid of life's pain. And so when she asked the question, why do you want to kill yourself? Most actors would have said with judgment, why would you want to do something like that? So
Yeah.
is it the same reason that I have? So we can bond over it. And the critics said this is a weirdly uplifting story about suicide, because we made it a love story. We made it
Yeah.
something positive. We took the victim out of being a victim. You know,
Mhm.
there's a whole bunch of stories like that in the book. You remember when you were acting, you get to that place, you go, oh, where'd that come from? I never thought I would say it like that or do or whatever you did. We want to get to the zone. But how
Yeah.
the zone, it just doesn't magically appear. You have to make it happen. You have to do the work. And it's a lot of work.
Sounds like a lot. I want to, like, for anybody who's listening who wants to be an actor or just starting out as an actor, it sounds like there's a lot of vulnerability and a lot of honesty that you have to be, true to yourself and honest with yourself because when you're young, you might skirt over things and brush things over and not really be true to yourself, to be able to be vulnerable and dig deep into those feelings to fuel that power. Can you speak to that?
You can't do it yourself because sometimes we just don't know. It's not that we're trying
Yeah.
to hide anything. And the job of a good teacher, and this is what I always tell people, and what Charlie Theron always tells people, you got to study, 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 and take risks and the choices that you make as opposed to safe choices. So that's the key to success. Study, 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 because you need a mentor or teacher that's going to help you understand what that is. I ask a bunch of questions, and then they'll say, well, this doesn't bother me, but I'll watch them cry. And I go, well, obviously it does, or someone says, well, this is the thing that I think is my worst issue, and I see nothing. And I go, well, I'm not buying that's the one, but I keep asking questions, and ultimately something's going to happen. And then I start asking questions more further into that element of where they are starting to melt and become more vulnerable. But you need a teacher to do that. And so the people think you do it alone, you can't.
Yeah. That outside perspective to look in as from somebody else is yeah, big. You're a therapist.
Not a therapy. What it is you need to have somebody to help you understand how to get there. A lot of people want to do privates, but a lot of people want to do privates and just education. And I said, well, you're losing the idea. First of all, in real time, you get laughs. In real time, you get tears. In real time, you watch other people going through the process of opening up, and you go, oh, and you start to feel like I have the same kind of stuff that he or she has. And so you see the process of it so that it helps give you permission to go there too, because you see your friends and I created a community in my
Yeah.
school,
A real-time audience.
a loving community. A secret community. You can say anything from anybody. Everybody loves each other. We hang out after class. Make it something that makes people feel safe. Safety is really important to me. I will I'll take their secrets to my grave, as will everybody. And I also ask a vow of my students to solemnly swear that you will not reveal anything that you hear of a secret nature to anyone, and you will take it to your grave. And people have been pretty good about that. That's how you get people to be more open. Otherwise, like you're saying, the vulnerability honestly is something that people are afraid of, because if you're vulnerable, what can happen?
You're gonna get hurt.
I'm gonna get hurt. Okay, so I don't want to get hurt. You don't want to get hurt. So I have to create the safety net so that people go like, I can't get hurt in this.
Mhm.
It's an interesting relationship to move on to work after that because you miss
That it's
and
like
it's wildly different for actors when you show up to a set and you're like, love everybody. Wait, what? You know, and you're like, wait, what is going on? And you know, some PA is yelling at you, and you're like trying to get your lines. You got new pages, and you know, it's a wildly different experience. But to have that you know safe space when you're learning who you are as an actor, it's
so
it's invaluable. And that community to go through that struggle together.
exactly right. But that's why it's there, because the set is not safe.
It is, I've been on like maybe a handful of sets, and like most of them were mine that were very like, you know, lovey, everyone's important, we're making something together, but
Not the norm.
it's not. But you know, I love that you said that, Ivana, because it's such a precious time in an actor's life. And I would love to talk to you a little bit more about continuing study, because people go to acting school and finish. And I'd love to know more about your idea of what, you know, what is studying beyond learning a technique, finishing training, or what have you. How do you feel about like training beyond, you know, learning that specific technique?
In Europe, they go to drama school for 3 or 4 years, and then they've realized that the people that are getting the jobs are the people that continue their study. I use the example of a doctor. Do I want to go to a doctor who went to medical school and decided he was never going to learn again anything else? I wouldn't go to that doctor. I wouldn't want to cast that person. When I have choices to make as a producer and director, to be able to say, that person is really good. But how do they get to be in today's world? Because you learned stuff that was true for the days that that you were studying, but what about all the new stuff? Things like art keeps growing and changing, and you have to grow with it. It's like in a new book. In the old book, I had a section on auditioning, and this book, it's so different. And you learn that from studying. You also learn there's a community. The community also networks with each other. So they help each other get agents and agents. My people are working actors. It's real. It's the real world, but
Yeah.
in a safe place so that when you go into the unsafe world, safety is in your heart.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. But if you go straight to set or theater, it doesn't really matter. It's like it really oftentimes is your success or you being good means my failure, and they are bound and determined to screw you up. And so how do you deal with that? How do you deal with a director who micromanages every move and gives you line readings? How do you deal with all that? All that stuff's talked about in my classes. It's like I feel like people who feel like they're done being educated aren't very smart. So, education is key. It's not over. You always will keep learning, keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. I do. Every time I coach this conversation, I've actually learned some things, from your points of view, and I go, that's interesting. Let's add that to the party. And so the thing is that I'm always learning. Wake up in the morning and go, what am I going to learn today? Stay curious.
Interesting and curious. I could talk to you for days, Ivana. I really could. What makes you so proud? If you can talk about that a little bit.
Wow, that's a question. Being open to everybody's point of view. It is expressed, I think, that way in the book, that I'm proud of the fact that I didn't get insular to my own thought process and kind of try to keep it open for people to feel like they can fill in the blanks from their own world. And I'm
Yeah.
proud of the fact that I was able to do that.
What is the best advice you've been given in your career?
It's not about advice. It's more like a way of living and forward motion of what drives me. Which
Mhm.
my father is a Holocaust survivor, and he was a little boy. He was 11, and he couldn't do anything about what was happening around him in Germany when he was watching his brothers being beat up who were older than him. And because he had blonde hair, blue eyes, the other young boys who were brown shirts would beat his brothers up and in front of him because they didn't realize that he wasn't one of them. And so when he grew up, he decided to become a lawyer for the people. He was one of the head people of the National Labor Relations Board, which he helped unions. He was that kind of guy. And I
Mm.
determined that I needed to be that too, to help people, to empower people, to take the oppressed people and do it through the arts. So I feel like he did it through law, I do it through the arts. So that to me is my motivating force.
It reminds us how powerful art is. It's life-changing.
It is, and nobody can complain that it's a bad thing.
I mean, in this day and age, some people complain about it, but we don't listen to them anyway. Well, your book is called The Power of the Actor, and I'm just so happy that you joined us today. I think our listeners will learn so much.
But I want to express to everybody that older women, this should help older women too. It's not. I worked with Pamela Anderson on The Last Showgirl, and she kind of gave up the ship a long time ago and decided to reinvent herself at 57. So it's like, and she's doing really well. It's not just for young women, your show.
Yeah.
It's for women. We got to empower each other and we got to take care of one another. And someone's got to do it, and we're going to do it we're going to take care of ourselves, and I really believe in that, and I don't want people to never ever feel like they're too old to follow their dreams. And then I want to just say the book is Amazon.com. It's also an audio. And then also in terms of anybody wants to understand about what the class is, IvanaChubbuck.com.
We had such a wonderful time chatting.
Yep. Thank you so much.
It's great. Girl power.
If you're interested in learning more about 101, check out our website, www.101podcast.com.
Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, all at 101 Podcast.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.